You good. You
Perfect.
good. You good. Well, look,
What's up,
man.
fellas?
What's up, man? Welcome to another episode of Boy Man King live on our YouTube page, man. Super excited, man. Coach Crump. Super grateful and thankful, man, to be on another episode with my main man, Chizzy. What's up,
hmm
Chizzy? Talk to the people. You know what I
What's
mean?
going on, man? Happy Labor Day to you guys, man. It's good to be
Yeah.
here. Blessed
And
to be alive, man.
yeah, and we have a special guest, none other than NBA champion, ATL legend, man myth, you know what I mean? Father, son, husband, basketball extraordinaire, entrepreneur, author, podcaster, podcast host, podcast guest, the man with
Goodness.
the plan, the man with many. Give it up for the one and only Mr. Josh Powell. Welcome to the
Yes,
platform,
sir.
my brother.
Welcome, bro. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Look like you're
Yeah.
entrenched in the house things. What's
You,
good?
you get me all the time, brother. Every time. It's the second time you done got me.
Yeah,
That's
man.
it,
Listen,
crazy. Crazy.
yeah, our relationship started in the hoop scene when I first moved to ATL officially 5 years ago. You was with the Skills Factory. When it comes to pedigree, when it comes to Atlanta, you're one of the A1s. You're one of the legend that if anybody knows anything about basketball, they know about Josh Powell, especially in this area, man. So I always had utmost respect before I even formally met you. Then to come to find out that me and you had a mutual friend and connection in JA.
Yep,
Jeremy Anderson, and
yep.
that is kind of like when we collided on the entrepreneurship tip when it was separate of basketball. And I feel like our relationship came full circle. We got a chance to just have conversations and invite you to some events and just kind of get more connected as a man. And
Absolutely.
that's when the separation happened where we start talking about real talk, real life as it relates to what men deal with, only for you to come out to be publishing a book, you know what I mean? And now you're in the relationship space and considered one of the trending topics when relationships matters podcast. You just published a book talking about, what you wish you knew, and now you just kind of in a space where you're separating yourself, which is so hard for basketball players to be seen as a human because you've been seen as a basketball player since you was a child, and you know what I mean. It's trying to making that look. At the end of the day, I am a man, and I'm a
Yeah,
man dealing with man issues, man. So we
yeah.
just kind of want to open the floor to you to talk about, man, what it's been like to kind of like. And I know you haven't fully detached because you always will get that respect across the masses when it comes to that. But how has it been for people to start to see you as a human being and have conversations as human beings and not as, oh, let me attach to Josh Powell, the basketball player. Now get into the combo where now if you're attaching to me, you're attaching to Josh Powell, the man, the human
Uh,
being. Yeah.
love it.
Yeah. So talk to us,
Uh,
man. And full daddy mode too. I love it, man. You know what I'm saying? Full daddy mode.
uh, I think that you got both computers, right? Yeah, all right. Let me know if you need something. All right,
And
I'm good.
listen, Boy Man King got the realest YouTube in the industry
You
right
know what I'm
now,
saying?
man. You know what I'm
Not the
saying? This
industry.
ain't this ain't no
Right.
show. This real
Everybody,
life. You know what
everybody.
I'm saying? We dance in real life.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
And that's
I'm
what
gonna
speaks to
make
a
sure.
lot of hats, man.
yeah.
I'm gonna make sure I back out this driveway so I can finish this conversation. Let me get
Yeah.
it. Let me get enough distance.
Yeah,
Uh,
man. The authenticity is amazing because,
yeah,
although we all occupy certain spaces, it's important for people to humanize us in a way outside of our roles, outside the things that people perceive us to be and to do. It's important that people recognize that, man, we're just men trying to be the best man we could be, best parents we could be to do whatever we can to support our families and our communities, man. So it's nice to see you in this particular light because on the big stage we see you in that big three doing your thing. You know what I mean? So it's
yeah.
amazing to know and for our viewers to see that Josh Powell is representing himself, his family, as a father, and he's doing all that he can to be the best man we can be, and that's all we aspire to be, bro. So
Uh,
talk to us, man. What
uh,
what was it like? What was it like? What's that transition like, man? Because people identify you in a particular way, and did you find it difficult to kind of, I wouldn't say step away, but to be viewed in a way that's the lane you're trying to occupy now, man? What's that like for you?
Yeah, well, for one, because I know the other parts of that was in regards to like people and how they treat you. I think that with everything that we do, and I feel that you both can relate as well. You're gonna have people tugging on your coattail. There's gonna be somebody that's always gonna want something from you or need something from you, and that just kind of comes with it. Being a person that has experienced success, or being in a particular light, or maybe it's the circle of people that they know you're surrounded by. People are gonna always try to figure out how to get in position. That just comes with it. For me, because I always understood that, I never took that personal, and
Mm,
and I'm super. In a sense, it's like it's a great place to be in, because if you use your powers for what they're for, then you can really get a lot of good out of that. So I
Yeah,
never trip, because if somebody calls my line and they need something, then that means they view me in a way, right? And there's a respect level there,
mm,
But for some people that don't realize that, then it could feel like people are using you. But if you
sure.
acknowledge your gift, you can understand that you're in a place of power, because you can connect people, you can put people in positions to help them and their families win. There's a lot that can come from that. So that's one part to that answer. The other
Mm-hmm.
part, in regards to my transition, I've always humanized myself, therefore never really having to go through that transition.
Okay.
So when you
Okay.
look on my page, when you look at everything, like, I don't post a lot of basketball stuff. I'll do some things here and there, but my focus is always geared towards me as a person.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the other thing that's really helped me, because I don't get caught up into a lot of the things that other former athletes get caught up in. And I'm not attacking them, but when you've done something your whole life and that's what you get notoriety for, even once you're done with the game, or once you're done making music or done acting or whatever, you'll still be labeled as that person
Yeah.
mm,
until people get to really get to know you, how you are as a man or how you are as a woman. So if you don't have these conversations like what we're doing right now, if you're not the type of person that speaks to life or your views on different topics and things like that, then nobody will ever really get a chance to know you. So therefore you're always going to be in that shadow of who you once were. So
mm,
I'm grateful of what God gave, because it allows me to be in rooms. It allows me to build relationships and do it the right way. It allows me to see things that, or areas, or whatever that's problematic, to help um, bring solutions to that. Um, and it allows me to use that to be a bigger voice, because for me, I feel like chapter one was really to prepare me for chapter two. Being a basketball player, yes, it gets me in rooms, but now that I'm able to get in those rooms, that's where the power is.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's powerful, man. And so I wanna ask you another question though, specifically because grounding is necessary. The humility is necessary. And you growing up as a shorty in Atlanta, playing ball at a professional level, we've seen it numerous times where athletes, like you say, get caught up in certain things. What do you attribute your grounding, your humility, your balance, your roots? What will you say was a contributing factor to how you remained humble, how you remained humanized, how you didn't get caught up in the hype or didn't let the ego of the aspiration or the accolades that come with playing basketball? How did you stay grounded in that particular space?
That's a great question. I appreciate you asking. I think and believe that the biggest reason is because I understand it could be taken away.
Mm,
We've seen too many stories and way too many times, where if we're not thankful, God has a very interesting way of working. And
sure.
even if you're not a believer in God, then you're a believer in energy in the universe, and you understand like the type of seeds that could be planted in the way you water it. So,
Mm-hmm.
we've seen a lot of people, man, from Mike Tyson, think of him, man. Mike Tyson is one of the greatest to ever do it. You're talking about somebody that made 400 to 500 million in his career, and he's in a great place now. But when you hear Mike talk, like a lot of people didn't get a chance to really hear Mike, you know what I mean? And now he's podcasting and he's, talking and expressing from his point of view. And it's really a beautiful thing to watch and to listen to. But Mike was one of those people, man. He was at the top of the food chain and life happened. You know what I'm saying? So, that's an extreme example, but you can also look at some men or some women who have made certain decisions, have allowed their pride and ego to get in the way, and they've ended up losing their families, they've ended up losing their children, they've ended up losing their jobs. Like anything can happen. So I'm not gonna act like I'm perfect, And many times before, I know I've copped an attitude or said something slick or done something, but at the end of it all, like I try to underneath that, I try to remain the same person, who comes from the South Side, raised by Lisa, raised by my grandparents, all of the people who have been pivotal in my life that have helped me to grow and to learn. And even to this day, even conversations and meeting gentlemen like yourselves who, are big on growth, big on life, big on love, big on family, like all of those things, like bringing people together, bringing men together to do these types of things and have these types of conversations is what's necessary, is healing. And it shows people who don't have the example that it is possible, so I'm just forever grateful.
Yeah, I love it, man. I love it. I want to kind of go there to relationships matter. We all are men who have multiple responsibilities, but from your perspective, I definitely would like to hear. I was looking at this reel, and it's been a couple of trends here recently on Black Twitter, as they say, about Dr. Cheyenne Bryant with Cam and Nick Cannon, and I consider you somebody in the spotlight who has to deal with unique dynamics when it comes to women and children and things of that nature. But before we get there, it was I want to put a caveat on it, because our approach is not just about being equal as men and women when it comes to family, when it comes to children, right? Because particularly if you're a man of color, these are layers that influence our approach. And I was having this experience with my son this past week, and I wanted to hear your take when it comes to like and then we had my daughter celebrated her birthday this weekend. We went out, had dinner as a family after the football game. She's a cheerleader. She's in her senior year. And she was like, man, it's different. You treat CJ different. And I was like, they made jokes about me at this table because, it is different. But one of the things I was sharing with my son in privacy is like, bruh, it's different because the world gonna see you different. You know what I mean? Like the world's gonna have different expectations of you as a Black man in this world. And then internally in your own home, you are responsible for everybody. In general, women don't come in and say, yo, I gotta get this job, take care of my husband. They may say, I'm gonna try to take care of my kids, but they're not really coming in and say, man, I gotta make sure that when I go home tonight, I gotta make sure he's straight. We think of like, I gotta take care of everybody. I gotta make sure everybody should. That's our regular thinking, is I'm protecting everybody. Everybody else is kind of doing their thing. Right. Our mindset is, so I'm like, CJ, you can't just be responsible. I'm not just preparing you to be responsible for you. I'm also training you to understand as you get ready for, he's in high school now, bro, you're going to have to be prepared and be responsible for everybody that's associated with you too. Like how you move, how you think. It's not just about, I want to do whatever caters to CJ. It's not how this works. Like you have to think about, I'm building aspects of you, because you're going to have to be responsible as a man one day for more than just CJ.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So I'm training certain things. It's not just, I want to make sure you get a good grade in school. Certain things, certain energy I'm bringing to you, I want you to be a man prepared for responsibility. Talk about, from your perspective, somebody in the spotlight, somebody that millions of people know who you are, and you still trying to manage these spaces of father, relationship with the significant other, wife, children, this children in this house, children in that house, like the dynamics that you're dealing with, bro. Talk to the people about how that is.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because, I find it interesting that the equality conversation when it comes to relationship, but from a real world perspective, like people got to
Mm,
understand the power of their position. And
mm,
it's like, for example, and I might get flack for it, but whatever. Like, women want equality when it comes to pay, but when it comes to decision making, right? That's what we here for. You know what I mean? To lean on us for our leadership. We're in an interesting situation right now, right? When it comes to the powers to be and being in this political space, because you have Kamala, you have Trump, you have the back and forth, and a lot of people, when you watch the comments and you look at equality and you look at these different things and what they're basing decision making on, because we've never seen nothing like this, right? I know Hillary was the last person to make a run, and obviously she lost, but we're now back at it again. So I say all that to say, to your point, that when it comes to family dynamic and balance, us as men have a lot more to work out and work through than women. And it's not a competitional thing. It's not a
Yeah.
comparison thing. It's just this is what it is thing. And I'm
mm,
saying that respectfully because there are things that women do that we can't and vice versa. And that is okay. When we say okay, it's like, well, I'm glad you know that. But or excuse me, when women say this, then it's like, well, we're glad that you acknowledge that. But when we speak to that, it's like bow and arrows start coming out, the woodworks, gunshots, and everything else. But it is a real thing that our leadership, balancing everything. Like I just told my old lady the other day, and I tell my kids this too. I always preach this because us as men, we're gonna fail every day. We're gonna let somebody down because we made the right choice. Somebody's not gonna be happy. You
Right.
end up spending time with one child, the other child gets upset. And even if you spend time with both and you love on them both equally, somebody's gonna feel a way. It might be your wife, because she's like, well, I don't see you laughing and kikiing with me that way. Then then when you try to spend time with the wife, somebody else gonna be tight, right? You might have had a job situation or an interview or an opportunity
mm,
that you probably had to say, I gotta sit this one out. I gotta put the family first, right? Then if you put the job first, now the family like, well, we don't see you enough. It's always gonna be something.
mm.
But ladies and gentlemen, just try your best.
Yeah. I mean,
It's,
that's
it's
what.
no it's no right answer to it, right? Because
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think everybody has to try to find a way to balance. But the thing about men, which is unique, right? If a woman never works, it's not a knock or a chink in her armor. But everything when it comes to men is like you're basically slaving yourself for a paycheck or the look of what a real man is supposed to be.
Yeah.
Because God forbid you sit on the couch for a day. Then somebody gonna be like, you lazy, or they don't like how you move and you don't have no direction. Like, this is how dangerous it is and where it goes. So I say all of that to say, like, for me, I try to make sure bare minimum I keep spiritually, I make sure that's a priority, because if I'm in place spiritually, it allows me to flow in every other area of my life. That is
Mm,
definitely number one. For two, myself over everybody else, because if I'm on E, how can I love the people in my life? How can I show up in the way that I need to show up in every other part of my life, from work, family, friend, whatever? After that, figure out time with the old lady. What does that balance look like? Then after that, when it comes to the kids, what does that balance look like? And then after that, right, work. Now, I know to my significant, to my loved ones, for example, it might look like work trumps everything, but that's not the case, because when I do set everything down to have breakfast, to you, you might take that for granted, but for me, I'm being present in that moment.
mm,
And we never, like, think about this, like, what families nowadays are having breakfast, having dinner together, and just talking and not being on their phones?
Yeah.
Like, we're not doing those things that are really taken for granted nowadays, more so than anything else. Like, I've seen it myself that in the past, we'll sit at the dinner table, everybody on their phone, kind of doing their own thing, or somebody gets done eating, they off. But now it's like, no, we all get done. That's when we all get up.
Yeah.
But we got to make that something that's of importance. You know what I mean? Like, everybody got TVs in their room. Everybody got that thing that they need to keep their attention, but we don't do the same thing for our family, ourselves, our loved ones, the people that matter. We don't take that time for that. So I
Yeah.
try my best to stick
And
to
that's
that
what,
structure. And
yeah.
but at the end of the day, at least the foundation is set, and I make sure that that's a priority. And then here's the other thing, just a little nugget. These are wins for people in relationships, man. It could be 5 minutes, it could be 5 hours. But if you have time and you take the necessary time for your person once a day, just once a day. I don't care if y'all eating together. I don't care if it's watching a show together, going on a walk. I don't care if it's going to the store together. Just take the time to do something with your person. And it might not seem like a lot, but over time, you'll see the closeness. You'll see how y'all are continuing to go in the same direction. Because what's dangerous is, especially now, you got people in both households, both parties got to work. You can get caught up in that treadmill where you're doing work, you're doing kids, and then y'all are just like two ships passing through the night. Like, you just don't realize that Monday could turn into Friday very easily. So that's why you got to prioritize and put stuff on the calendar. I don't care if it's date nights. I don't care if it's having sex. I don't care what it is. You got to make the attempt to do it. It's important. So my bad for being long with the
Nah,
fellas.
No,
that's
no, no.
good.
That's good. Like, and everything, whatever you put your time into, you're gonna reap the benefit of that time. Whatever you lack in areas, you also reap the negative benefit of not putting in and that lack as well. But the balance,
Absolutely.
like you said, is critical. And that's the hardest part that most men struggle with is finding that balance. Because like you said, a lot of our identity is wrapped up in our ability to provide, our ability to be so many, to do so much for so many people that a lot of times there's other areas where with our ladies, with our children, has to sacrifice. Unfortunately, and I think that's a struggle for all men across the board in your entire life because at different seasons of your life, it's going to require more or one of the other. I think we all want to work towards a place where the financial components are taken care of. So now you're not on that treadmill of trying to provide and earn and make money. So you have more time. You know what I mean? Um, but appreciating that and also recognizing that these seasons require different energies as well. When you have very, very small children, your time may be required a little bit more of you than to make those investments to ensure that your children are getting what they need. Just like when you're developing a business, when you're growing, trying to really push it and scale it in a way to have longevity, then your time's gonna be required to put more effort into that. And other areas of your life, it's gonna suffer from that. But I think the critical part is in knowing that these seasons come and they go, and being able to communicate and effectively let your people around you know that they are a priority and you put those words into action. And a lot of guys get caught, men especially get caught up in that one season of I have to just make money and make money and make money and make money and everything else just falls short as a result of that. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing because of course money is necessary for us to sustain ourselves, sustain our lifestyle. But the balancing act is really where a lot of men struggle. And everybody's balance is different. Everybody's
I'm glad
responsibility is different.
I'm glad you made that point because I just wanted to touch on something real quick. Like, I personally feel like if our value wasn't so wrapped up into how much we make or how much we work, I feel that a lot of men would be able to balance it a lot
Facts.
better. But the
Facts.
fact that your woman might lose respect for you if
Mhm.
you started to move differently is part of the reason why men will just sweep it under the rug,
Yeah.
Put your pride and ego to the side and just work until you know what I mean? Like, you can't no more. Like, the spaces I've been in, and I know y'all can speak to this too, but I know a lot of successful people who got a ton of money, man, and they're miserable.
Mm-hmm.
They're miserable because they don't really get a chance to enjoy. They don't get a chance to be with their family. They don't get a chance to do a lot of things because they're constantly working. And on the outside looking in, oh, well, it's being a provider, right? Because I know Chris brought this up earlier with Dr. Bryant, right? That's her name.
Yeah, yeah,
And it's and I have a lot of different perspectives in regards to that. I do think it was a beautiful conversation.
yeah, for sure.
But the part why they feel like they're not doing anything wrong is because what? Financially the kids are good. Isn't that what the world deems to be a great father? They don't
And what
place
happens
the
if you don't have
value.
that capacity? What
They don't,
happens if you don't have that capacity? What if
but they don't,
financially
right,
you're not there? You know what I'm saying?
right.
So
But that's the
that's
point, because to them it's like, well, my kids don't have to want for anything. But that is what we've been programmed
yeah,
to think. So you can't be mad at Nick because he's just like, well, I'm here to procreate. Ain't nobody tripping on the relationship. I'm in and out the house. I bought everybody their houses. I got everybody set up. What are y'all complaining for? Now we live in a new day and time where people are like, the money just ain't gonna cut it. How you
right.
gonna spend time and do what you got to do? And for him or for Cam, they're like, well, I do spend time, but now that's subjective, right? Because you got noise from the outside, but you don't really, unless you're there on the day to day, like, who's to really say other than Nick and his children's mothers and the kids, obviously, and the same thing for Cam and anybody else who's in that same position. But that
Yeah,
is why it's so dangerous. Like, I just saw Adele announce in Germany, I think it was Munich. Yeah, that's in Germany.
Mhm.
Um, she's like, yo, I'm about to take some time off. I want to really spend time. She's been working her tail off for 3 to 4 years straight, and she's like, I want to be able to enjoy it, like, cause she just got engaged. Like, I'm sure she has plans and things that she wants to do. People are understanding the importance of your mental and your emotional health. They also understand the importance of balance and making sure that you're doing the things that's necessary for your family.
Yeah. And that
Like, we
financial
lose sight of
component,
that.
yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah, that
and I
financial
want to.
component is a small piece of that puzzle. To me,
Hmm.
it's a very small piece of that puzzle. Because like I said earlier, you may have amassed so much money because you're on your grind. Definitely other areas of your life are gonna fall short. You can, and I'm not judging anybody that has multiple kids and Nick Cannons or the Nick Cannons of the world. I don't want to psychoanalyze why, he feels like having all these children, all these women is something that's cool or something that's, another conversation for another day. But
Yeah.
it's something to be said about um I'm gonna just say sprinkling yourself too thin as it relates to how you procreate, how you choose to allocate your time with your children. Because just because you're there doesn't mean you're present. Just because you're
I,
sending money doesn't mean you're present. Just because you have multiple children and your wives and your ex-wives or your ex-girlfriends are satisfied financially and your kids may have doesn't mean that you're present. Doesn't mean that 10, 50 years down the road when no, they're trying to be well-adjusted adults. They're not revisiting some of the bad experiences or that time that they didn't receive from the dad just because you've been sprinkled in so many different directions. You know what I mean? So, to each his own, but to me, it's about quality. It's not about quantity. It's about quality of time. You could be in a room, as you know, there's so many distractions around us. You could be in the house with your children and be there present, married to their mom, and be there and living in your space. But that doesn't necessarily mean you're putting in quality time with your wife or your children, or building your kingdom with your family. So let's
Yeah,
just keep that clear as well.
yeah, I wanted to kind of highlight that part too by making it full circle and going to another part. What I would like both of you to talk about your experiences of navigating this, because I come from a nuclear perspective. So, my kids was 3 and 5. I was like, yo, what's gonna be our family tradition? So when they leave our house, that they remember for life. And I decided, Josh, that Sunday morning breakfast, we're gonna play
Mm-hmm.
worship music. I'm gonna cook a full breakfast. I'm gonna clean the kitchen. I want to make it less burdensome from everybody involved. The food is already fully prepared. They wake up Sunday morning, it's there. Man, me and my wife ran the play for over 10 years. And we just joined a local church that kind of challenged the dynamics a little bit, but that tradition of we sit down at the table Sunday morning and enjoy the conversation. So we have word, we have worship, we have food, and then we pray. Everybody individually prays, everybody hugs, and everybody say, man, have a blessed day. I love you. Now that went on for 10 plus years, and I was able to do a rites of passage with my daughter. We got a rites of passage plan for my son next year. Me and my wife tag team my daughter when she was getting influence in middle school. Now she's about to graduate from high school. My son has a comprehensive training program going to Grayson High School. Josh, as you know, Grayson is one of the top programs, not only in the state of Georgia, but in the country. So it's like I'm looking at the work that I got to do to set his schedule for 5:30 in the morning to work with my wife, who just did a photo shoot for her senior year yesterday and made some custom clothes. And I say all that to say is like she has allowed me to parent the way I like to parent too. So in a nuclear setting with my wife, we've been together for 23 years. One of the things I respect about her so much is not looking back after 23 years. She picked her faith when she could have copped out, and she picked her family when she could have copped out. We had justified reasons to quit, to give up, to divorce, do our own thing, and we could have made it very sensible in our heads to I'm gonna do my thing and we're gonna work out the kids. But we both multiple times over 23 years would be like, you get on my nerves and I can't stand you sometimes. I get on your nerves and you can't stand me sometimes. But we both decided, but because of my faith, not because of you, because of my faith and because of my values and my family, not because of you, I'm deciding to stay and figure this thing out with you. And we make incremental growths. And when I see people that don't have a nuclear set, same woman and man, same children, same house together, but they got these dynamics of a blended situation. I'm always curious about what those dynamics are working with the mother to still
It's
allow you,
tragedy.
yeah,
It's
to allow you to
tragedy.
be the
And
father.
but you know what? Like another thing before I go back into that, right? And it's not to put a negative on it, but I'll dive into that. Um, when we were talking about the importance of being present, right? When it makes me think, because I don't know. I know we know people, but I don't know if you all have any experience, like, well, clearly don't, in a family court setting. But when you go in, and I know y'all hear what y'all hear, what is the thing that we're fighting for? Money.
Oh, money. Okay.
Nobody's fighting for time.
Mm,
Even when you say, no, I want my kids 50-50, whatever, they make it really hard for the man.
yeah.
Even though that is your right as a father to have not just
Mm,
50-50 legal, but to have 50-50 physical custody of your children. Therefore, it's mother and father getting both equal time with these kids, which is what they need if the parents aren't able to stay together.
Mhm.
You spend more time. My divorce took a year. You spent more time going back and forth over finances than you did time.
mm,
So to go back real quick before we go forward, when you think about the men who are throwing money at the situation, this is a system that has been designed. This is an ideology that goes back however long. You don't have to be present. All y'all care about is the money. Take
Yeah.
that.
There's
mm.
horror stories. There's horror stories. There's numbers that come on post divorce with alimony and child support. Guys paying
Bad,
20,
bro.
30 grand. I really
It's
don't understand how
bad.
that's possible. Um, and of course, that's like you said, that's a system that speaks to the value system within the court system historically. That's set on a dollar. No one's saying, all right, we need to make sure that you spend 30 hours a week. Like that conversation never comes up. That you'll never see
Never.
a
I'm telling
document
you.
of a decree nisi or whatever they call it in the legal terms to say that it's documented that you are to spend X amount of hours with your children. But make no mistake about it, that dollar amount is clear as day for people to understand. And so, for us single fathers who are living in that space, who have to experience that, um, it's a slap in the face, especially when you know in your heart of hearts that you did your utmost to be present in your child's life. You did your utmost to be available, to be a resource, not just financially, but spiritually, socially. You know what I mean? It's disheartening, but I mean, at the end of the day,
So how do you know? So let me pivot. So we know we know the system is like trying to monetize too. They eating off this too. Like that's why they so hard
Facts.
because they pay bills for the government for each state. I know that's how it works in America. But when you're in that situation as a man, and we talk about these relationships, there's no way of not navigating part of this aspect with the mother, not
yeah,
just the child, right?
yeah,
So what I'm saying is, when I look back at 23 years to put it back on you guys again, man, my respect for my wife goes through the roof because at any point she could have hijacked this situation to make it way more complicated by just thinking about herself. I'm not even making it overly deep, but just thinking about, you know what, I'm tired, where she was, and she had justified reasons to go do her thing and be by herself and take the kids and all of that and fight through the legal system and all of it. She was like, man, I'm not doing that to my children. I'm not doing that to my family, even if I am struggling with me, with our dynamic. I'm not struggling to the point where I'm willing to see that through on my own family and children. So my respect level is like, yo, because I'm dealing with men who are great guys like yourself, who got these whole nother separate battle
yeah,
of being just present with your child. And
But I
I'm at
think that's
like,
I
how does
think
that
that
work?
goes back to her value system too, though,
right,
Mhm.
right? I mean, there's arguments for where people were born and groomed and all of these things, but I think that at the core of it, your wife's value system is a lot differently. Even if y'all decided to go another way, she probably wouldn't go the traditional route in how y'all would manage whatever in regards to your kids.
Mhm.
I'm just get you know her better than me, but
Yeah.
that's what I think and that's what I feel in my spirit, that even if it was to be whatever, it's like, all right, we would be able to at least talk about it like adults and figure out the best situation for us to maneuver and what we're going to do for these kids because they didn't ask to be here.
Mhm.
A lot of women, and they know better, bro. Like, first of all, with an exception of some of these other women in other situations, for the most part, there are a lot of good men out here. So even if the relationship doesn't work, women know that.
right,
They know the type of man that's going to be the father. And a lot of times they're going to behave the way that they're going to behave because they know that you're going to fight. They understand the expectation, but they also understand their power too and how they can get over. And for me, my advice to the man that's in the situation, and there are some women who are dealing with some difficult men too. So I'm not going to act like it's not across the board.
Yeah.
But you can only focus on yourself. You can only focus on your environment. You, excuse me, you can only focus on what you can provide for the child and their experience and what that looks like, because the sensible thing to do would be to really co-parent, co-house, all of those things, being on the same page, sleep schedules, activity, like all of that. That's really
right,
healthy. That's how it's supposed to be. But because you have either the man or the woman who's like, you don't control me and what I do in my house, which is really unfortunate,
yeah. All that
you're
emotional
making it
stuff.
about you instead of making it correct, instead of making it about the child. So now, like at first, like for me in my situation, I was trying to go about it being on the same page, trying to go about it getting more time, just wasn't happening. And the other reason why it wasn't happening because it's a money play. And unfortunately, that's what it is with a lot of situations. It's a money play. So after trying to do that, you get worn out by making those efforts. So then it's like, you know what? When they come here, this house is gonna be loving, fun, light, all of that. Like, I'm not gonna be up in here yelling and screaming at y'all, cursing at y'all, doing certain things. Like, that's not the foundation that's gonna be set. So I have to maneuver a certain way. And then when you talk about blended families and then you get into a relationship, you have to let your significant other know what's going on. You have to be upfront and honest in order to make that work, because you got to put your household before all of that.
Mm.
If your household is out of whack, then it's definitely gonna make the experience across the board be even crazier. So as
Mm.
long as y'all on the same page, everything else gonna take care of itself. Period. I wouldn't even get into all the fussing and everything else. And here's another thing, and I don't want to miss this point. And I feel like we spoke about it in our other conversation, but if we didn't, I'll reiterate it. We hear a lot of horror stories about co-parenting. We don't hear the horror stories of people who are in relationship, and then you have a mother or a father that's painting pictures and creating narratives within the household, because that part happens more often than what we think. I know that happened to me for sure.
So hold on, just make sure we don't get lost. You're saying when you was actually together, that in the
Yes,
household, a narrative was painted
yes.
about
Listen,
your type of fathering,
let
how
something
the
happen with
partner.
them kids, right? Like, say for example, you and your wife get into it,
Yeah.
Just like
and
your dad.
your wife be like, your wife will say to you, and knowing that them kids will hear it, you're not gonna talk to my kids that way. You're
Yeah.
not gonna
Yeah.
treat my kids that way, right? And the kids, they pick up on it, but they don't understand the power of it. Most
Mm.
times, men in that situation, it kind of goes over their head, right? Because you're in the midst of a disagreement and you don't think about it. But how many times for that child, if they keep hearing that type of separation, do not talk to my kids that way, do not treat my kids that way, don't touch my kids, don't, like, over time, think about what that does, fellas.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And you're not on the same page. And then if you're the breadwinner or you're working your tail off, not only is that picture being painted, but now you're not in the house as much or around as much because you're working to provide, which could be used against you too. It's a lot of things that make us as men, as fathers, look like villains in the eyes of our children.
Oh, what was the bad guy? Well, Daddy's always the bad guy, even when we're not the bad guy. And I take your point. As I'm listening to you, I'm reflecting on my past relationship, my ex-wife, and some of the narratives that were playing out, like you said, while you're in the household and you're having these discussions and you're having these arguments, or the ethos or the environment that's being created in the house is not aligned with both of these values. It's centered more on her identity, or what it's like for her to stay in control, or the narratives. And sometimes even the women don't even understand the importance of what they're saying and how they're interacting with you, even in those moments that play out in a way that's going to have far-reaching effects on the kids in the long term. You know what I mean? So I think ultimately, what I'm recognizing from this conversation is that it's important for both parties to continue to be in a healthy space and to continue to put in work, because co-parenting, as we know, is not easy. It's definitely not easy, when you have financial challenges with your exes. But I think men specifically have to take the leadership in a lot of ways, and saying, all right, this is what I'm not going to accept, and this is what I'm going to accept, even as it relates to dialogue and conversations, and setting the stage for what that looks like and how you take. And that self-care component is a key piece to that, because a lot of times the only way you're going to remain in a good headspace, the only way you're going to be able to be productive, even in the heat of battle, is when your centering comes from a different place. And
Yeah, and I want to pivot for a second time and
yeah,
go with that, and I want you to kind of go there. I want to hear from both of you. You both talking about being exhausted by the process sometimes, Josh, being frustrated with the other parties, or with the mom or whatever it may be. Like, what do you do as a man who has the ideology to always be there for my kids and I'm gonna always fight for my kids, but I'm exhausted at the process and the situation that I'm involved with, and just trying to be a dad or just trying to honor my family and take care of my responsibilities? What pivots, what practical steps have you guys made recently in your life to self-care, to make sure that when you hit bottom when you can't, when you angry as heck, got back to baseline. What are some practical things that's non-negotiables for you in your self-care so that it keeps you showing up in a way that you know you want to show up, regardless of your situationship, for you and your family and children? Like, what are some self-care tactics that you guys have made now in your life? These are non-negotiable. This is how I move, regardless of my circumstances.
So, if you don't mind, Chizzy, I'll
Yeah,
touch on
I
it
was gonna do
first.
that to you, bro. That's you first.
So it's a great question, Chris. There's multiple parts to this, right? Because the self-care is important to give you the strength that you need in order to make the proper adjustments that you need to make. And a part of self-care is loving yourself enough to not guilt trip yourself about what's going on currently. You hear a lot of people, especially a lot of men, and men are real hard on men and make it seem so easy. Well, no matter how she's acting, still go here, still do this, still do that, and all of these things, right? And
Mm-hmm.
this is coming from a man who I've had TPOs on me. And for those who don't know what a TPO is, it's a protective order. I've had false claims made about me that have landed me in a position where, for example, I did not see my son for a year, the one that I just dropped off, right?
Yeah.
So people can make it seem like, well, you just ain't fighting hard enough. Why do I gotta fight? And even though I am fighting, right? How are you gonna tell me that my efforts aren't good enough? When I ask for a schedule, because all right, cool, you don't want to come to my house, I'll show up to where you at. And I'll stay out the way. I'll just show up, be present, and stay out the way. But when I'm asking for a schedule and I don't get it, and then when I gotta go on the school website or do some digging or try to reach out to the fifth person to finally get something, right? Then it's something that's not communicated. Here's an example. I remember, because I go to church on Saturdays, right? I remember one time I left service. I had an hour and 45-minute drive because I was trying to get to his game. So the time service had ended. This was, I think, service ended at about 2:30, 3:30. I think the game was at like 5-ish. So I take off literally after service. I'm all the way in Loganville, by the way. So I go from Loganville to wherever this school was on the other end of Georgia, because it took longer. Like, you can get anywhere within an hour, but it took longer because traffic, construction, whatever. By the time I get to the football game, because I don't know if he had me blocked, whatever the situation was, they didn't tell me that they changed the location of the game. So I get to the wrong location because initially I was told one thing, but then whatever happened, there was a location change. I end up getting there and I'm asking the people, they're like, oh, it's not here, it's somewhere else. So for those people that always want to say about your fight and this, that, and the third, man, like, you have no idea, because it gets to a point where the kids are so good at it, they're in on it too. So what do you do when your kids fighting against you too?
Yeah, yeah,
This is
yeah.
this is a this is a this is a 3-part series, man. Like, this thing turns into a whole
Thanks.
nother situation, because at first it's mom planting the seed, and as the kids get older, they understand the game. Now they're doing what they're doing. So now you're fighting all of these factors. And that's why I say, love your kids, do what you can, but do what works for you. I'm in a place and space now. I'm not going to fight, fuss, or nothing. If they're
Yeah,
at my house and all of a sudden, if I'm supposed to drop them off tomorrow, for example, today is a holiday, right? If I'm supposed to drop them off tomorrow, but if they say to me, hey, this is what's going on, I need to go home. You got it, big dog. I don't want
fact.
no problems. Just show up. You got it. I
Yeah,
love
yeah,
you. You have a
yeah,
blessed one.
yeah.
I'm not going to get myself in a position, bro, because it makes me think of a lot of men who are crashing out.
Right.
It's a lot of men committing suicide. It's a lot of men not only committing suicide, but taking the kids with them. It's a lot of men who are just overdosing on drugs. Like, it's a lot going on. And a big part of that is relational. A big part of that is because of what's going on with them and these kids and everything else. It's hard out here, fellas. And I'm not saying that I'm okay with what they're doing, but what I am saying is, though the pain is that deep, I understand. I understand. Because I know I can go, if I was at home right now, I would show y'all on this camera. I got a book, and I write in this book multiple times throughout the week about how I'm feeling, about the individual, about whatever's going on. I hope somebody finds it. I hope y'all open it up one day. It don't make me none, because I'm not saying anything bad. I'm talking about my actual experience.
The truth.
I'm praying for you. I'm showing you love. I'm doing all of those things. But I also get tired too, because it's silly. Why do I have to? Here's another example. Why am I getting cursed out, disrespected, and everything because I'm bringing my kids to church with me? So that turns into something. Are they going to church with you? No. Then why should it be an issue that they're going to church with me? Like, why is it a problem to have a spiritual foundation? And you've been invited. You ain't going to church. You've been invited. Pull up. You got an issue with it, come check it out. But why does that make me a bad father? Or I'm being disrespectful. You're doing this and no, I'm not. But as a man and as a leader, respect where I'm at with it. I'm being led spiritually. I want to make sure they're led in the right way. I know the gains that I get from the Creator. I also know the things that I've been pulled out of because of my faith and everything else. The protection is necessary. But you on my head. Okay, cool. You got it. I don't fuss, don't fight no more. But lastly, I don't think that many people realize, even though you're not together, it's still family. Right? I literally have 4 families. And I'm saying that respectfully. A lot of people, no, y'all ain't together. No, you are, because those are your kids. You created those kids. That is your family.
Right.
That's why you still have a responsibility to make sure that they're still good to the best that you can do it. I'm not, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's boundaries, but I still, because I know, right? If you really understand how the game go, if mom good, these kids gonna be good.
Yeah. And so it's to your point, I want to sidebar, because I want to get 2 practical tips you do and to keep you in that space. I won't go to Chizzy, but I was advising another man who had 3 children with his wife, and they're talking about a divorce. They've been together for 20 years, but he was talking spicy, like
how you
he was
walk
like,
away at 20. Goodness.
but he was talking like, hey, look, I ain't, look, I'm doing me. I said, bro, no matter what you call it legally, she's gonna be in your life for the rest of your life. Y'all gonna be in high school graduation together, all 3 of those kids' weddings together, and all 3 of those kids, y'all gonna be at this grandmama house. So regardless of what you do legally, that woman is gonna be in your life for the rest of your life until the day you die. You have to fully accept that. So because you know that, you have to work out in your head how this relationship gonna work, because she's not going anywhere, bro. You may write a different piece of paper, but it ain't, I ain't gonna never, I wrote this paper now, I ain't gonna never see her ever again. I ain't gonna never, no, you wrote a piece of paper to kind of put confines to the dynamics legally, but that's still a part of you. That's still a part of your situation. That's not going anywhere, bro. And I said, you got all 3 of your kids from the same woman? I said, bro, that's not, I don't care what you call it legally. That's not going. And he was like, so then a week goes by. He was like, Crump, you right. I realized, we started staying separate rooms and they were trying separate houses. I got to talk to her every day because of the kids are so young. I say, bro, like, what you like, that ain't going nowhere. So it's like, you have to understand the woman is a part of this equation too, in your fathering. That's part of, you got to have an approach to that reality, regardless of what it is legally.
You do. And my thing would be to do it to the best of your ability, because here's the other part to that. There are some people, there are some men, just like there are some women, because we talking about us right now. So there are some women who ain't gonna ever get on that type of programming.
No.
And that's why it's important for you to do the individual work and
Yup.
just be at peace with it, because it is gonna drive you crazy, because you can give every effort, you can do all that you feel in your heart of hearts is the best thing to do to make sure mom is good, to make sure this, to make sure that, and she just ain't going. And
Brethren,
it's
it's a
tough.
law. It's look. I'm gonna give you a cheat code. Get guys a cheat code. Find out what it is that woman wants, right? And I'm not saying you have to appease her every day and twice on a Sunday, but you'll be better served in first centering yourself. So for me, I'm going to the gym every day, my spiritual life, my devotional life, that keeps me grounded. But you have to find a way to get past first your own emotional attachment to why she feels the way she feels, and you reacting and her trying to get a reaction out of you. So once you get that out of your system, and it takes time because there are phases to it. I remember times where she would do something dopey and I would be reactionary and I'll be like, why? And try to go back and forth with her and talk and try to be angry and upset. And like you said, you get to a point where you're like, all right, I know what I can control. I know what I can't control. So I can control me. And if I learn how to control me, no matter how she shows up, no matter how dopey she wants to act, it's not going to sway me. But to your point, like you're going to be family forever. So you have to shift your mindset in terms of how you're going to show up at the end of the day. Because those kids, like you said, those kids are good. If she's good, those kids are good. And I'm not saying going on her trying to manipulate people and making sure that you're not standing on your principles for how you want to conduct your life post relationship,
Right,
but find a way to make sure that that woman is happy and whatever happy looks like in your individual situations in terms of making sure that she's got what she needs. Because
right,
it's a long and hard battle to try to make her see things the way that you see them. You're never going to do that. You're wasting your energy in doing so. So what I had to learn was, all right, I know that there's something emotional behind why she's feeling or why she's saying or why she's doing or not doing how I feel she needs to do. So once you
mm-hmm.
recognize the source of why that is, then you know how to navigate it. All right, if I show up in this particular way, I'm gonna get this result. If I show up in this particular way, I'm gonna get this result. Once you learn how to navigate that, then it becomes more about, all right, you understand that beast and that element, so you know how to intervene or react or even conduct yourself or manage the space before it even gets to a point where where she's going to antagonize you. You feel what I'm
Right,
saying? But that comes down to a lot of centering for yourself. At the end of the day, it comes down to you and what you're doing for yourself. But if you're still angry, if you're not going through therapy, if you're not doing grief counseling for yourself, if you're not taking your gym life important, making that a priority, if you're not got your spiritual life as a priority for you, you're not going to have anything to pour from. Your cup's going to be empty. So when she shows up and that says something stupid to you, what you got to give?
mm-hmm.
Nothing. There's nothing to offer to yourself first. You know what I mean? So to answer your question, Crump, you gotta take necessary selfish time to separate your emotions and to center yourself in a way, because every day something different is gonna come up. Yesterday, I was supposed to meet my kids. My son gave me 3 different places to meet them so that we could go to this event together as a family. And she's driving the car. She could easily say, "Yo, we're getting her." I never got no type of conversation about what the plan is, but I'm gonna bounce around and navigate what he's saying and what she's saying and what's not being said and passive aggressive. Yeah, I'm good at her, but I'm not telling you because I kind of really don't want you to show up anyway. That type of energy, you know what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, I was like, all right, well, I want to come, but I'm not going to drive around the nation trying to figure out what you guys' plan is. If someone can openly communicate what their plan is, y'all have a good time. Whatever you need, I'm got you. Show me when you're finished, and we'll figure out something after that. But those are the hoops that you got to jump through sometimes just to be relevant and be present in your children's lives, because you're always going to be the bad guy. You're always gonna be
It's,
the bad guy. Whether you do something right or you do something wrong, you're always gonna be the bad guy.
and they're
It
gonna
just
say,
comes
"See,
through.
See,
I
your
told
daddy
you.
don't never show up. I told you he wasn't
I
gonna.
told you. I told you. And then and sometimes they're not even open about the fact that they don't even want you to come around. They don't want you to be involved. So the very thing that they're fighting you against, you don't do this or you don't do that. In the heart of hearts, because they don't want you to do that because no, it satisfies the narrative that they're already spinning in their mind in terms of you being a bad guy or you not doing what you got to do. So they may say they want you to be around, and that may be the very thing that they're contentious with you about. But in the heart, in the spirit, they know that they have to satisfy the narratives because it justifies everything that they're saying, everything that they're done, and even justifies the demise of the relationship that they're still holding on to. That plays out in their actions. You feel what I'm saying? So once you understand how to navigate all of that, and you know all of this is being processed in a daily interaction with these women, then you know how to anticipate it. It's chess, not checkers. And I don't play chess, but I would like to believe you have to anticipate 2 and 3 moves ahead. And
Correct.
that's just what you got to do. You
Which
feel what
is
I'm saying?
exhausting in
Which
itself.
is exhaustive in and of itself.
So I'm so glad. I'm so glad on Labor Day, we was able to give Chizzy and Josh a chance to vent and get all of this out so that they could be present for the barbecue later today to crack some jokes. On behalf of all the therapy, you know what I mean, coaching sessions out there, man. This is your boy Coach Crump giving these guys a platform to get
Yes,
this stuff
sir.
out of what just happened to them this weekend so that they could be more present and available for their kids today.
Hey,
Yeah, man.
we go always. You know what? That's a
Always.
part of the work. You know what I'm saying? Because
Yeah.
think about it though, Chris. Like this is a beautiful platform, right? To be able to have these conversations.
Mm.
But that also goes to show, for example, the work that Chizzy's doing because he's able to freely talk about it
Yeah,
and
man.
Mm.
not
And not
feel any
even,
kind of way because this, like we go through this so much, right? And I'm sure for Chizzy, I know for myself, I'm leaving details out
yeah.
intentionally, right?
Yeah, respectfully, please.
Because the other part of being a father and being a leader is making sure that you still protect the powers to be, even
Yeah,
if you're exposing truth.
Yeah.
yeah. Like
Because
party,
boy, if
yo.
I ever put an address on it,
No, no, don't do that. That
man,
somebody had asked one I was on a panel, I was watching the panel, somebody said, "Hey, you want me to keep it 100? No, keep it 75. Keep it
Yeah.
75." Like I don't want none of y'all to keep it 100. Keep it
And look, I'm about
75,
to put a
bro.
disclaimer out there real quick. Let me just say a disclaimer. Like I remember times where things were extremely bad between myself and my ex-wife. They are not such now, primarily because of those things I have to put in place for myself. You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
We have a great co-parenting. I would like to say we have a great co-parenting relationship. Um, and I know you were talking earlier, Josh, not to go backwards about the financial components. And I know at certain levels, the financial implications for a divorce or for separation are far greater. I consider myself a regular guy. I'm not sitting on millions and millions of dollars. So the financial pieces wasn't a huge component for the separation. So when you asked the question when we first started, it was like, what are they fighting for in court? And I answered time. And you said no, money. Because from my perspective, and how I view parenting, time is what I'm always fighting for. Being relevant, having time with my kids, making sure that my values are infused into their everyday living. You know what I mean? So it's just interesting for me, especially for you as a man who's esteemed in certain environments, who's had a different level of success from myself, obviously in the basketball arena, to see how that financial piece is a huge impediment to why we have challenge and to why we don't progress in these particular spaces.
Yeah,
we're on the
because
same page, by the way, Chizzy. I
Oh
just
yeah,
yeah,
want
yeah,
to let
yeah.
you know.
Facts, facts.
I'm just
Yeah,
saying that when I went into court, I
yeah.
was on the same thing you were on. I'm like,
Right.
I want to have this. I want
Facts.
this time to look like this. But we spend a year, a majority of everything, because of on her side, it was the money,
Yeah.
yeah,
Because
alimony.
that's how they know how to
How
get
long
you.
we doing this?
Yeah.
Like I watched a woman that didn't have a problem with the house the life that I provided, but then came into the courtroom, cried tears. I've never worked in 12 years. Da 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 da. And he's never home. And I'm being villainized for being a man.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not
broken
saying that
system.
that's the only thing that matters, right? My presence, loving on my family, spending time doing. I know that matters. But when we got into court, all of that stuff went out the window because it was like, oh no, he's never here. I'm the only person taking care of the kids. He don't even know who the kids' teachers are. Like, what are we doing right now?
Yeah,
Yeah.
What are we
Yeah.
doing? I'm with you at doctor's appointments. I'm with you at PTA. I'm with you at all of the. What are we doing? So I stumble upon a name. That means that I'm not involved. Like, what are we doing?
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
That's how dangerous it is because it is it's how women have it lined up. I watched something on social media. It was the same thing. It was a couple going. Matter of fact, young Jock. I want to say. No. It was Kurt. It was Kurt going back and forth with the woman he stepped out of his marriage with that had a child with.
right.
She literally asked him, "What's the teacher's name?" And I felt myself go back in time. I was like,
Right,
"Here
right,
we go." And then he was like, "Are you serious?" I
Yeah.
don't know, but like I make sure I take care of this, and this. She's like,
Yeah.
you don't even, and it's like
But
this.
that goes back to what I don't, because I know we getting, y'all getting it out. I'm glad y'all getting it out. Like, I'll be
right.
honest, I'm glad y'all getting it out. But I do want to go, like, the Chiz, to your point. You're in a
Mhm.
situation where theoretically, ideology, you're thinking about the time, but court systems,
Yeah,
money, 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 and the money always is an approach of taking the money from the man. Like
yeah,
that's like the general West in America, and that's in Bermuda. Because I know
yeah,
people who get arrested on spot in Bermuda for not paying child support or
yeah. You
being
got thrown in
a
jail
couple
for
months
child
On
support and all that.
spot.
on
Yeah, yeah,
spot in
yeah,
Bermuda.
yeah.
You get arrested and go to jail right there if
3
you're like a
months,
That's
couple of months late.
that's
couple of months in
nasty
arrears.
work.
And what's up?
Bruh.
Golly.
What's up?
Yeah.
What
And that
75
messes up. And I
every
and
two
I know
every
and I know guys that mess up their employment because it's just like they ain't want to. The employer was just like, you just getting involved in, you getting arrested. For some employers, like, that's enough to have a separate conversation. You know what I mean? So then
years.
and so, like, that's the whole separate conversation we're saying, where men are navigating the world completely different. Nobody is never arresting a woman on spot for child support. You know what I mean? No
Right.
matter the circumstances. So it's like, that's the difference of whether it's pressure from the police, whether it's pressure for politics, whether it's pressure from the government system, whether it's pressure from society. Men never stop feeling that pressure. The ultimate point, as I was making, is that no matter if it's nuclear, which in the Black culture now, I realize the reason why I'm asking you guys, because this is a true depiction of our family dynamics, where my situation is less than a third now in the Black culture of a nuclear
Yeah.
family being together. Like,
Yeah.
Right.
most situations is a blended situation. So I can't be speaking up here giving us everybody some theory about what they should be doing with people's situation, and contextually is and circumstantially is not my situation. So it ain't the practices don't apply. You know what I mean? The principle may, but the practices don't, because the situation is completely different. So I'm glad you guys was able to give a voice and give a heart and an ear to the men. And I hope men and women hear what you both had to share. But as we close out, Josh, man, what are your final thoughts you want to share with the people? And also, how can people learn more about what you got going on with your book, with your pod, and with your brand?
Um. I mean, I'll start with the brand or whatever, man. Y'all follow your boy, Josh 21 Powell on Insta. I just joined Threads.
Shout out, just join Threads. You know what I'm saying?
Just joined
Hit them
Threads.
up on Threads
I,
too,
I
family.
was
Follow
I
your boy
was
on
I was
Threads.
fighting it, but yeah, I'm on the different platforms, man. And then 21 Reasons to Give. We got major projects dropping. What I Wish I Knew was on all platforms: Amazon, Books a Million, Barnes and Noble, as well as we got the ebook jumping too. Audio about to drop soon once they clean that thing on up, mix and master that boy. You know what I'm saying? So we got that going.
I love it.
Now that we done got that business out the way, Oh, and relationships matter. Y'all check us out. Subscribe, share, all of that good stuff, man. Share it with 5 of your folks. Tell them to share it with 5 of their folks. Do that thing on repeat. Do the same thing with this podcast too, by the way.
Come on.
Yes,
So,
sir.
we're gonna plug it all. Just dropped the card game.
Congratulations.
Relationships Matter live card game. You know what I mean? Matter of fact, just so happen to have that thing handy on deck, fresh in the package.
They were
But
talking
y'all
about.
check us out, man.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
got this thing jumping. It's dope. We got 2 cards. One is exploring intimacy. The other one is the healing journey. Great conversations. I went over personally. Me and Chanel came up with, I think, about 200 questions, and then we got that thing down to what we wanted. But y'all check us out, man. So plug right there. Boom. But most importantly, outside of plugging, when it comes to life, man, be kind, be patient, be gracious to yourself. Don't nobody have all the answers. I don't. I'm doing the work. I still know that there's more work to be done.
Come on.
I try to live my life in a way where I'm uplifting, I'm positive, I'm loving, I'm caring, I'm kind. And I do those things for me. It's not based on the other person or what energy I'm getting back. I feel that a lot of times we want things to be reciprocal, and it's not, and that's okay. Because when you are who you are at your core, that's what makes you dangerous. Stand on being dangerous. Stand on making people uncomfortable, because your spirit and your light is shining so bright that people want to hate, they want to come in, or they want to attach themselves to you because they see how you moving, they see the love and the respect that you get. And I think that that's a beautiful, powerful, amazing place to be in. For all of my kings, all of my queens, keep mashing the gas on being the best version of yourself. And lastly, to the children that will grasp and get a hold of this conversation, it's not personal. This is what life is like. This is how hard adulting is. This is the importance of communication. And a part of communication, it ain't always about talking, it's about listening. You listen to understand. That way, that can help you as a person be able to navigate that relationship or whatever that space is in order to get the solutions that you're looking for. Nothing about this is easy. And the crazy part is everybody's going to be in the same position that we were once in. When we were kids and we looked at our parents crazy, and then when we start having kids, now we want to call our parents and say, I get it. As men, as women, the cycle continues, man. It's nothing that is changing that much. But what can change now is more love. Men, I need for us to tighten up. We need more spaces like this. We need more communities like this. We need brothers that are willing to be open, be transparent, be honest. Stop allowing this cape to kill you. Remove the cape. It is okay to take care of your mental. It is okay to take care of your emotional. It is definitely okay to take care of your spiritual, because that is who you are to the core. Money does not make us. Status does not make us. We know a lot of people with money and status, and they're not stand-up individuals. See, I'm working on that, because I was about to say lame, but I wasn't going to do that. I'm working on it. I'm working on the proper terms. So being a stand-up man looks different, and it's not always the sexiest thing.
Come
when
on.
you stand on being a real man.
You better say it.
Sometimes you might be in them rooms by yourself. Sometimes you might feel crazy because your kids looking at you crazy, your wife looking at you crazy, the mother of your other kids, if you're in a blended family, might be looking at you crazy. But principles, morals, values, your foundation, let that speak volumes. Lastly, and I know I said that before, but I'm waiting to share the stage with Chris one good time, or share multiple stages. I'm gonna go ahead and plant that seed.
Yeah.
Cause I feel like I can come in, I can charge a room up, you know what I'm saying? I could do it in my own little South Side way.
You
You
can do
feel
it.
me?
You
But
can.
I got some love to share, man. And hopefully we can continue to have these types of dialogues in front of thousands of people. Maybe that's the seed that needs to be planted. That is the seed. So let's do that. Let's create that space.
Yeah.
Where
Talk
we're in
spicy.
front of thousands of people and we pass the mic, but we on stage and we giving out this game and we talking this good talk, man, because people need to see it. And a lot of times people don't think that people that look like us can speak the way that we speak, articulate it, that we can listen, that we can be respectful, that we can challenge somebody but do it in the right way. All of those good things. So I hope that was a good 60-second Instagram reel to
Yeah, that
finish.
was, bro. That was really good. Shizzy, talk to the
Yeah,
people.
I mean, it's hard to follow up that, man. I just want to thank Josh for coming on our platform and blasting us, man. It's always amazing to hear what you have to say, to get a different side of the real experiences that we as men experience day in and day out. So I want to thank you openly for that, man. Similarly, man, he checked a lot of boxes. So I'm just gonna say, man, love on yourself, give yourself grace, and remember that your assignment is for you to raise damn kids and be the best possible version of you through
Yes.
God's eyes. So
Amen.
your validation comes through God, not from all the stuff that you do, not from all the money that you make. Your validation comes from God. So if you seek God's validation first, you'll never go wrong in that particular space, man. So I want to thank you guys. And check out this episode dropping, man. Your episode drops today, right?
Yeah, yeah. You
So
know,
I'm
you throw
blessed.
good. Thank you for the alley-oop, Chizzy. I just
Yeah,
want to say thank you again, Josh, man. Shout out to the Boy Man King podcast. Shout out to the entire team, man. Like and subscribe, man. His episode drops in less than 10 minutes, man. Y'all want
yes,
to tap
sir.
into our YouTube. Like, share, support, chop it up, repurpose it however you want, man. Thank you to all of our subscribers all over the world. Thank you to all of
Mhm.
our viewership, man. Thank you for everybody that support this conversation about men and developing and becoming the kings that they was called to be, man. Because as we know on the Boy Man King podcast, the journey continues. And so, man, we thank you, Josh, man, for your time, bro. Enjoy your family. Enjoy your
Yeah,
Labor Day
have a good
weekend,
day, bro.
man. You know what I'm saying? Enjoy them babies. And we'll appreciate y'all, man. Bless.
Love
Peace,
y'all
peace,
brothers,
peace,
man.
love, man.
Bless.
Yeah,
Bless.
man. Well, yeah, Josh, that's it, man. I stopped the YouTube stream, man. Just want to say thank you, bro. Appreciate you. Man, great conversation. You know
Great
what I'm saying?
conversation, man.
Yeah, man. But